Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to look at another example of data cleaning. So from here till sort of like towards the end of this course, we're going to see more and more complicated cases of data cleaning. On this example, the data cleaning is at the level 1, as we talked about. It means that we're not going to really do anything to the values. We're just going to restructure these values so they're presented in a way that they're accessible and manipulatable better for our analysis. So let's look at this example. So this example is a database of Donald Trump speeches. So if we look at the way this data is stored, every file here in this directory speeches, it has basically the city that the rally took place, and then the date that rally took place. So if you click on any of these files, you will see that it's just raw speech that Donald Trump gave in his rallies. So every one of these you open, you will have the same case. It's raw text data that was in the rally. So this is the way data is stored. And now we want to clean this data, or sort of like from these text files, sort of bring them into the first surface and put them in a data frame. So here's our task. We want to create a pandas data frame with the following columns. We want to specify the city. We want to specify the date. So this needs to change. This is date. Speech, which means like the text and the number of words in each speech or rally. So first thing we will do, we'll learn how to read the files in one directory. So I have imported the list directory function, list dir, from the OS module. So once I run this, now if I call file names, once I run this, all of those file names from that directory speeches that we saw is going to be shown here. So pay attention that directory has to be on the same folder as this Jupyter Notebook file is. That's how this is going to work. So we know that these are the files are there. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a data frame that is just empty, but I'm going to start putting things in it. So I call it speech.df. I need to import pandas first. So I call it speech.df, and basically it has a file name and the speech that I want to just put in. That's the first thing. So this is an empty. The only thing I have used is I have used the length of the file names. How many file names is there? So based on the file names, I have the file name and speech in this columns, in this data frame. So there are 35 files there, and then I'm going to have 35 file name and speech here. So the way you go about this, we use a function named open. So Python has that. We use a function named open. We open that file. So for example, let's give this a try here. So I want to open this file and then sort of print the content of it. So f.readlines, print that content, what's inside that file. So see, I was able to use this function to open that and get the access to what was inside that file. So I could do this for all of them, but because I'm in a programming environment, what I'm doing here, I am going through a loop of all of the file names, and every time I put the file name here and I read it, and then I put the F content in the at the speech column, and I put the file name at the file name column. So once I run this, now I have started having access to the file names in my pandas data frame, and also speeches here. So next thing we want to really sort of like separate the city name and the date from the file. So to be able to do this better, we might want to sort of like use these months, which are, we sort of like know them, as a way to separate the city and the date. So these are all the possible months that we have, like January, February, we have like 12 months, and there seems to be a structure, or like they put every month by their name. So we have all these months, and then we create a function that we are going to apply to the data frame. We call it separate city. So basically we say in that function, for all of these, so like we go through a loop for all of these possible months, and we check if that month is in V, which is the value that's coming in, so which is from the one of these file names. And then we say return whatever you have from the beginning until when you find this month. So which will be the index right before this. For example, if February, if this is the file that's coming as V, Phoenix February 19. So if this is the file, then what's going to happen, this is going to start the loop. Is January in this? No. Is February FB in this? It's yes. So we meet this condition. We come here. So we say, okay, return the value, but not all of it. From the beginning all the way when you find that February, which is the MON. So you find this here. So this is the index. So you just return this part. So this is the function. All I'm going to do now, I'm going to apply this function to the series file name. And once I do this, now I have another column added to my data frame, which is city. So now I can build from here. Now that I have this, now I can separate the date. So I can create another function called separate date. Now I'm going to use the multi-column function, or multi-column function applying to a data frame. So now I'm assuming that the whole row, the whole data object is coming in. So now I have r.city, and that helps me to find what I want to bring from the date. So the r.file name, which is this one of these, like if this is coming in, this is going to be what's here, and I don't want all of it. I want to start from when the city name is done, or like when the city name is just been spelled out. So it comes the length of the city name, and then from there I want to get to the point that .txt started. So basically I want this part of the file for all of it. So I get that as date, create this function, and now apply the function to the data frame. So see, this time we are applying the function to the data frame. We're not applying it to a column. Previously we applied that function to the file name, which was one of the columns. So once we apply this, now we have to specify that we're going to apply this function to every row. So that's why we say axis 1. So once we run this, now we have the date here. December 19, 2019, September 18, 2020. and so on and so forth. So now, I mean, for us to see this is a date and like that has meaning. But most of the time, when you work with date, you want to let Python or pandas know that this is a date. The way you do this, you switch this from string to datetime format or datetime object. So we have to specify this as datetime, and we have to say which part of this is month, day, and which part is year. So we go ahead and split this date, and once we split it based on the underscore, we'll have month, day, and year. So once we do this, we have month, day, and year. So these are our values. But we want also these month values to be represented as numbers. So we create a replace dictionary using list comprehension. So every time I see January, I want to put 1. And we replace the month with this replace dictionary. So once I run this now, all of those months are replaced by a number. So now I could use the function datetime from the module datetime to create a date. See, I'm passing this as an integer year, month, and integer day. Month is already an integer. That's why we don't need to specify that it's an integer. So we create this function. Now we apply this function to this to the date df, and then we add a new, or we sort of like override what we had as date previously. So once we run this, now we could also sort of like sort our data frame based on these dates. So now I have the first rally that Donald Trump had was this date, and then so on and so forth. So now I'm able to like sort by date, something I wasn't able to do if the values were still strings, the date values. So now I can actually work with them as dates. I could also say ascending false, then it's going to show me the other way around, 2020, 1020, and then the ones before that. So now that everything starting to look great, let's do the last part of this data cleaning. We wanted to know how many words each speech had, or each rally had. How many words did Donald Trump use on each rally? So we create a function count words. Basically, all you need to do is split the speech and then count the number of words it has. You remember when you split based on space, it just like will split all of those possible values, put them as separate items in a list. So if we count the length of that, then it will give us the number of words that was spoken in that speech. So we could apply this function, or we could just do a lambda function. It's just going to be the same thing. So I've created also a lambda function just for us to practice. This is the same function as this one. So once we run this, now we have another column in the data frame that shows us a number of words. So once we are done with all of what we wanted, we now reorder our columns. So we want the city, date, speech, and the number of words. And now we sort of like we have only those columns that we want. Now that we are done, we can go ahead and save this as integrated speech.csv. So like we want to have only one file that contains all of the speeches. And once we run this, now the file has been created. Go ahead and open this and sort of like see the difference between the files that you had and now that you have saved this in an integrated format. We could also save this as a JSON file. Sometimes when you're sending a file, someone might prefer it that you send it as JSON, or some software work with JSON better. Most software would work with CSV pretty nicely. But just in case, you could also save as to JSON, or you could save as to Excel. Just in case if you wanted XLSX.